Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Suyin here, and today we're gonna be continuing the investments on autopilot series, and we are going to be talking about the EPF. So this is going to be a very Malaysian tailored video, but don't worry about it if you are not from Malaysia. I'm sure there's an equivalent product or equivalent offering in your country where it's related to a retirement fund. So here we call it EPF, which stands for Employees Provident Fund. And I know in Singapore they call it CPF, and in Australia they have something a little bit different, or actually it's very, very different. It's called superannuation. And yeah, we're gonna explore a little bit about it today. So let's get started. Well, the purpose of EPF is actually to ensure that every Malaysian who was part of the private sector and working in it is able to retire with some funds to tide over their lifestyles in retirement. That being said, a lot of people actually cannot live off just their EPF funds to cover their retirement because it tends to be insufficient. We either don't earn enough money while we are working, or we actually utilize some of our EPF funds during the course of pre-retirement years. What I wanted to talk about the EPF is to go through some of the basics, like when we get our salary every month. If you are employed by the private sector, you actually don't get the full amount that you have negotiated with your employers. You get a deducted amount where the deductions, the big part of it actually is the funds that go to EPF. So you get 11% of your salary automatically deducted, and that hits to your EPF fund or your EPF account, where the body, which is called KWSP, they are investing your money and everybody else's money in the EPF. They're attempting to grow that money, and that's how we get dividends from EPF every year. While we contribute as employees, our employers are actually contributing on our behalf as well. They contribute anywhere between 12 to 13%. And if I read this correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong. If we earn less than 5,000 ringgit, the contribution rate is 13% of our income by our employers. And if we earn more than that, it's 12% of our income by our employers. So it's pretty cool in that sense that we are contributing and our employers are also matching and topping up that extra 1 to 2%. It is completely mandatory. You cannot opt out of contributing to EPF if you are employed by a private organization. It is, just mandatory by law for us to contribute and for our employers to contribute on our behalf as well. And it is, in a sense, really good because it's a forced savings that we will never have the chance to, bat our eyes and say, yeah, I don't want to contribute this month. It is designed into the system that we are definitely contributing every month. What else can I say about this? Since it's designed for retirement, we are only able to fully withdraw the money when we turn 55, which is the official age of retirement in Malaysia. I know we have a very senior PM, but the real retirement age is much younger than that. There are also partial withdrawals that we can do pre-retirement, and this is for different purposes and it has to be approved through documentation. So some of the things that we can do a partial withdrawal for is the purchasing of a home. You can also withdraw the money for education purposes or healthcare purposes if you need to, and obviously subject to approval by KWSP with proper documentation submitted as well. There are two accounts that our funds go into when we put our money into EPF. So it's called account 1 and account 2, very simple. Account 1 holds 70% of our funds contributed, and the account 2 holds 30% of our funds contributed. So when we do partial withdrawals, it is coming from this account, account 2. And a lot of people tend to utilize this particular partial withdrawal feature of the EPF. And that is sometimes the reason why a lot of people cannot retire well, because they don't really have sufficient funds inside their EPF accounts. I guess something to really note about this is that we can also top up the contributions. We can voluntarily top up what we contribute as employees, and there is a limit to this. I read in the website that it is 60,000 extra ringgit a year maximum that we can top up, because they want to definitely limit the amount of funds inside the EPF, because the KWSP has a very difficult task of controlling so much funds within their investment portfolio. Because the more funds you have, it tends to be more and more difficult to generate a higher return. So I guess in this sense, KWSP really wants us to utilize our EPF funds for our retirement instead of using it to really make us very wealthy. And I can see why a lot of people want to put more money into EPF. That's because the general performance of EPF is really good, in the sense that they give us a dividend payment of around 5 to 6% historically. And yeah, to generate 5 to 6% when we don't do anything, meaning hands off, we're not picking funds or anything like that, that's a good return, because anything above the risk-free rate, risk-free meaning what the bank gives us in fixed deposit, right now it's around, I don't know, 3, maximum 4%. Anything above that, that is a good return, because what we are trying to really do here is to beat inflation. So people want to top up their EPF account to gain that extra percentage difference. So how does EPF generate its returns every year? What EPF is doing is they are investing in assets, and we can actually have a look at what assets they're invested in. They have a good website where I found all this information, and I don't know about you, but I've been working for about since I was 22, 23. Yeah, it's been a good 4 or 5 years, but this is the first time I actually had a look at how they perform as a fund. And they have an annual report. We can find this on the website. I can show you, maybe I'll put it somewhere here. And yeah, you can have a look at what they hold. They hold certain assets like stocks for sure. I don't know the information offhand, but I do know they are invested, well, majority of the money is invested in fixed income assets, so things like bonds, securities, and they have a large portion of the money in equities, also known as stocks. And their top 30 stocks that they hold are available for viewing in the 2018 annual report. And the first one is MBSB, Malaysian Building Society. That is their largest holding. I was really shocked when I saw that, because more than 60% of their total funds in equities are in this company. So do have a look at that. And you know, they have the usual suspects of banks and REITs, things like that. So have a look, it's very interesting. They also hold property, and they also hold some money market funds. So money market funds are just, you know, a fancy fund that mimics sort of like fixed deposit returns, but they are more liquid, I guess. Yeah, it is very interesting to see, so do check it out. Let's talk about the new features of EPF. What they have is called an I account, and we can access this account when we register at, you know, those, okay, when we go to certain banks or when we go to the KWSP office, they're gonna have these like little machines, or I don't know what you call them, but you can print your EPF statement, and also you can register to be able to look at your EPF statements online, and that's called the I account. So you just click to register. You need your phone for that. They're going to send you a verification code, and then after that you register online, and then after that you can have access to view your EPF online. And the other feature that is really good about this is that you're going to be able to access this thing called Members Investment Scheme, MIS, or as they call it, EMIS, because it's electronic through the internet. You can actually enhance your EPF dividend performance by investing in certain funds yourself. we as members of the EPF are able to take some money from our account 1 and target it towards buying certain mutual funds that are approved by the KWSP. And it's worth looking at because some funds tend to perform really well. But again, the thing with mutual funds is they tend to have really high management fees because you need a manager to, buy and sell the stocks and to actually make the decisions behind what's going on in the portfolio and how to enhance the performance. So that will cost us as investors money. It's quite high. It ranges from 2 to 3% or even more. But the saving grace for iAccount is that they have this feature where they just cut the sales charges by a lot actually, and they cap sales charge at 0.5% if I'm not mistaken, or maybe at most 1%. So I need to verify that information for us. But yeah, the good news is if you actually invest in these funds, you don't need to go through a particular investment bank anymore. You can actually buy those directly from the iAccount website through members investment scheme. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful. It is a very interesting way of looking at our retirement and what's available to us. And yeah, I want to keep it not so long, not so complicated, so I hope this really helps. I will see you in the next one. Bye.